Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 217. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Let's do those comics.
Indeed. Carter's also here.
Yeah, I don't have quite that energy.
Yeah. I mean, even I don't have that
I helped
energy.
out with my third cup of coffee.
That explains a lot.
Yeah. First two were not good. Third one is still not that good, but still. Maybe the fourth, I'll refine it enough.
What's that old quote about the definition of madness?
It's insanity. It's doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Yes,
but
there you go.
I changed the variables. It's like doing science. It's fine. I changed the grind setting. I went from cold to hot.
Well, the only reason Matt needs this much coffee in him is because he was up late last night.
It's like doing science. That's what he said. It's like doing science.
Hey, he defended that with the follow-up pretty well.
Yeah.
He talked about variables. That's hardcore science.
He used a buzzword. He used the word variables.
Variables not a buzzword, Pete. It's like using hypothesis. I know what it means.
Just because you know what it means doesn't mean it's not a buzzword. Use it as a buzzword. And the argument Carter just made, you use it as a buzzword to justify your science comment. Next we'll be talking about motion remaining is a constant.
Yeah. I took grind size and heat into account, and I tried to brew a better cup of coffee. It somewhat worked. So back to the drawing board.
I hope there's a drawing board. I hope there's a board in Matt's kitchen with like red string going to things and.
Not yet. However, I did make a cup of hot Ethiopian. No, it was Burundi coffee. That tasted almost like an air freshener. It had this weird floral to it, which was a first because usually I only drink my coffee cold. But I've been fighting a allergy thing where my ears are plugged and my throat's sore. So I've been trying to drink hot in the morning. So that was a different experience. I think I'm going to keep those to cold. They're better that way.
Well, what a start. This is a DC Comics podcast, believe it or not. Coming up on this week's show, we'll be discussing Strange Adventures issue 5, DCeased Dead Planet issue 3, Batman 98, Justice League 52, Shazam 14, Young Justice 18, and we got a new Black Label book in the form of Hellblazer Rise and Fall issue 1. And yes, I did read a Hellblazer book this week. We'll talk about that later.
That makes one of us.
Really?
You didn't read the Tom Taylor book?
No. I'll wait to hear what you guys say, and then if I need to. The fact that it was $6, $7.
It is pretty oversized.
It's a premium price.
Yeah, but it's a higher price in a week where I was already spending a little bit more, because Shazam, Strange Adventures, Dead Planet. Well, that's not that much more.
That's regular price, isn't it?
Do you know what this is? This is just Matt retaliating because I didn't read Legion of Superheroes last week.
It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with Hellblazer, and I know it's Tom Taylor. However, I want to hear what you guys say, because I know Connor's the Hellblazer guy, Pete's the more Tom Taylor guy, so we'll see where those meet.
Yes.
I think the reality is Matt spent too much time this week watching hockey and just
that's what I think it is. Yeah, it was a little too expensive compared to the rest of my books. It's just a complete cop out.
No, it is column B. I stood there in the shop going, it is Tom Taylor. It's also $7. Tom Taylor, $7. I became Kevin from that episode of The Office for a hot second. They asked me if I was okay.
The reality is, though, if you'd had enough time and you hadn't spent all of your week watching the hockey, you might have gone, well, I'll just get it on Comixology and read it.
Maybe.
But you didn't.
It doesn't help. I spent some of my morning watching highlights of Mark Stone deking fools out of their skates.
When does this stupid hockey season, this playoff season end? Because we must be getting through it.
Well, we just started. We've got at least 7 more games yet. So,
so what's that, like 2 weeks worth? Like, how many?
So the Knights just beat the Canucks to go to the Western Conference Finals. They win 4 of those games. They go to the Stanley Cup Final. So we're halfway there, Pete.
Okay, good. The Canucks. I wonder where they're from. Must be somewhere in the south.
I am glad now that I can go back to not hating them, because they do have a great color combo and logo. And out of all the teams in Canada, I like them the most, I think. So
that's fair. Yes. Okay. Right. Well, the show, comic books. This is like a briefest tiny bit of news, but nothing much. We got all that out of our system in the last couple of weeks. We have Fandom Round 2 coming soon, so we'll have more soon too.
Electric Boogaloo.
The 12th, I believe.
It is the 12th.
Is, as we record, exactly a week away.
Yes, but everything's available right away, so we should have the news for next episode.
Depends on what time it goes live and how they're handling it, because it's still video panels. It's not just bullet points. So news websites still have to go through all the panels manually and take their notes to do their headlines.
We'll have a heads up thing going.
Yeah, I'm sure everything's.
Sure.
I'm sure we'll know everything we need to know by the end of the show. I'm gonna say that. Maybe it'll be a sort of running thing throughout the show, but I'm fairly confident.
We'll see how it goes.
But yeah, so yeah, that's the show. DC Comics Podcast, episode 217. So much that's changed in the world since episode 216. That's not true at all. I'm making that up.
I mean, kind of, but we're not going to go into that. So.
Well, I did go to a movie theater this week, so I did do something
Holy frijoles!
notable in the last week. Yeah.
So one of the film shows I listened to, one of the guys is going through cancer treatments, and they were talking about how he's going to go see Tenet, because it's the big movie and they want to cover it, and he doesn't want to go to a drive-in. And the other guy's like, well, I'm not comfortable with you seeing it, so let's see if we can get like a screener. He goes, well, that doesn't solve it. I want to see it on the big screen. So they go out, and one of the guys, the guy with the cancer treatment, ends up upsetting the other guy, and they do a betting segment. And he goes, you know what? I can just ruin your whole world, and if you lose this bet, I'll make you go see Tenet. And then it's a real gamble. So yeah. So Pete, how was the theater experience? Did you take your life into your hands?
I literally didn't touch a thing the entire time I was there. My ticket was just an email which they scanned without interacting with me. I went into a chair. There was one other person in the theater.
That's good.
Up the back. It was kind of surreal being there again, though. Admittedly, it was, and walking around, everyone having masks and shit. It really does feel like we're living in some sort of weird dystopian future that you get in like a movie where everything's.
Yeah. That said, I'm giving Pete shit for this, but I was considering going to see Bill and Ted if it was playing in a theater near me.
Bill and Ted.
I'm not going for a while. The earliest I'll go is maybe, and even this isn't sure. This is see Bond? How I feel when it gets there. I'll be Bond in November. And even because I've never missed a Bond movie in the cinemas for as long as.
I got a trailer for that. It looked like shit, but I did.
Like she looks like.
I did get
fantastic.
I did get a teaser trailer though for Dune, which did look very good.
Villeneuve.
Yeah.
No, I do want to go see Tenet, and I might see how this week goes, and maybe because my theater that I normally go to, it was usually pretty dead during the day, so even when it was a big busy movie.
Well, I think the combination of it being a time when it's normally dead, plus the fact that a lot of people are skeptical of going. Does mean that it's actually very quiet, and then the fact that they're also, not using all the chairs because they want to have distance between everyone.
But also, Dunkirk is still fresh in my mind, and I'm kind of not trusting Nolan as of right now as much as I used to. I
mean, it's not Dunkirk. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I know. I
saw. I'm not saying it's bad or that I will agree with it. I saw enough people who were less than enamored with Tenet that I was like, I don't need to risk myself over this one.
I keep seeing that it'll reward yourself over numerous viewings, and I'm like, that is not the movie we need in 2020. I get it. I know there's people that like to go see movies multiple times in theater. Like, it's great, but not in 2020.
Hey, once it's at home and if you're still in lockdown, that's a good thing. You've got plenty of time to rewatch the 2.5-hour movie over and over again.
Yeah, but it's also Nolan, so you want to see it on the big screen where he takes advantage of everything. And yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything in my opinion on it. I'm recording the review tomorrow, should be. So I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Notice that neither of us cared enough to ask.
No, but I knew what he was going to do. I've been doing this with him long enough.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a word. But yes.
It's not Dunkirk. Put that on the poster.
No, No, I was really surprised at the Dune teaser though, because that's not been online. That was something that where it started up, because it came up with the Warner Brothers logo and stuff. And I was like, oh, what's this? Because I'm usually familiar enough with all the big trailers that I usually, because Wonder Woman played, right, and within a second I'm like, oh, it's the Wonder Woman trailer I saw a couple of weeks ago. But I'm like, I'm hearing this narration. I'm like, what is this? And then like, I don't know what the visual was that sort of told me it was Dune, but I was like, oh, this is a Dune teaser. What was weird though is it said like on September 9th, I think it said, see the full trailer. So a teaser for a trailer played in the theater. It was like a full minute long though, so it still felt like a proper teaser trailer. It didn't feel like one of those like 10-second things. It was like, it had enough. It had, if you're familiar with the story in the book, there's a bit with the putting the hand in the box early on. You see a lot
no
of
idea
that.
what that means. I know nothing. There's Lord of the Rings, which I know next to nothing about, and then even below that is Dune. So
I was like that until somewhat recently, where I actually read it, and I was like, holy shit, this is actually really good.
Yeah, so
and now I need to read the rest of them.
Got a teaser for that, so that was exciting. So I mean, I'll go back occasionally. I'll definitely won't be going as much as I usually do, but like when Dune comes out, I'll probably go see that.
My problem, as well as having to do with the actual cinema elements of it, I also have to use public transport to get to it.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole extra layer of. I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So
how far is your theater? Is it walk distance or no?
No, it takes about 30 minutes on a bus. Probably you probably get it like 20 in a car, but
but still, it's not walk
it's not close enough to walk. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. All right, we'll get on to what little news there is this week. One's just a businessy thing. They've hired a general manager who comes from Activision Blizzard. Daniel Cherry is
basically confirming that esports rumor from a few weeks ago.
Pretty much, yeah. So Daniel Cherry's the name. It's basically a new role, and it does kind of sound like it's more businessy side, which is kind of what I think I was saying more or less when people were freaking out about this. I'm like, yeah, it's probably the business side.
I thought that at first, but then when I saw some of the things he's actually involved in, like he has control over editorial, which is less businessy, I would say.
It says he's working alongside Jim Lee though, so that doesn't sound like he's come in and taken over. And
yeah, it says Jim Lee will be taking on expanded responsibilities surrounding the overall DC brand. So I don't know if he's kind of shifting to wider stuff, and he's got more. Cherry's got more of the day-to-day responsibility.
Well, his role was always supposed to be more wider stuff. I mean, CEO was always designed to be the one who kind of like does the blanket of everything, not just the comic books. It was the relationship between the comics and the movies and the TV and all these other things, and which is a role that Jim Lee took from Geoff Johns while still being co-publisher. I don't know. I have no reason to freak out. Just because he comes from an esports world doesn't mean that he's going to turn DC Comics into esports. Like it doesn't work like that.
That was ever the complaint. I'd just be interested, given that this guy has that we know of, no experience in comics. I'd just be interested to see what decisions he makes. If it is purely okay, he's in charge of the business financial side of things. That means he might make some bad choices for stories. We don't know yet. Obviously, he might not.
He could. But then its first response to these sort of things is to go to the worst possible case scenario, and I'm not on board for it. I'm not on board for the fear-mongering that was on Twitter the second that there was even a hint of someone like this being hired.
That's the internet I know.
Yeah. So I still it could go terrible. Anyone they hire could go terrible, but there's also no big giant red flags here of like, it's going to come in and everything's going to feel like it's yearly Call of Duty but in comic book form. Like, I don't know. Nothing's worrying me as of yet.
No, not so much sales side, but if we get the excitement like that again, like almost that was around 3 Jokers, that'd be cool. I miss that. I miss like when Blackest Night was all the buzz and stuff. I mean, that was fun. So if he can do that, then sure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that was the business thing, and then just something that I know would cheer up Matt is that Batman Day has been revealed for 2020. September 19th will be the day of the bat. They've got a lot of activities planned. I don't actually care about any of them. I just wanted to.
You mean that's different than every other Wednesday?
Well, the HBO Max, the DC hub on there is being rebranded as Batman stuff on the 18th and 19th. So you can go check that
that's
out.
Really all that's there right now is like 15 Batman animated movies, none of which I want to watch. Yeah, I guess I'll just watch Harley Quinn again, I guess.
You finish it now?
No, I have 3 episodes left, but I'm savoring them.
Wait, have you had the King Shark one now then?
Yes. It was amazing.
Oh, good.
Anyways, this day always annoys me just because it feels not cynical. What's the word I'm looking for? Just like
corporate.
Yeah, and it's just like, hey, you guys like Batman? Guess what? It's Batman Day. Batman, Batman, Batman. Buy your Batman.
I think the problem with Batman Day as a concept is that there's no reason for why now. It's just, it's just because we said so. Like, it's not like it's
because Batman. That's ultimately why.
It is. More on that later. But what's weird about this one as well for us is there's probably no comics things related to it this year beyond the obligatory Comixology sale.
Mm-hmm.
Because last year it was actually on Batman Day that they announced Tynion taking over the new run. But this is coming a week after Fandom, where we're going to have all the announcements anyway. So it's like, well, there's going to be nothing comic related left for this.
Nah. I mean, like I say, I actually care about it. I just wanted to say it to Matt.
Yeah, of course, I get it. I remember getting into an argument with our friend James about Superman Day versus Batman Day, and I was like, there was no Superman Day. And he goes, yes, there was, because I went to my shop. So I was like, you're lying. And then he showed me all the stuff he got. And I was like, wait, my shop didn't even celebrate Superman Day.
And you need to have words with your shop.
Yeah, well, and I did. So now anytime something comes through that's Superman related, I get asked.
Yes, there was spinner racks just all over the floors when Matt went on his rampage that day in 2017 or whatever it was.
I'm surprised I'm still allowed to shop there, to be honest.
Just flaming dog turds coming in the windows. All sorts. Alright,
you gotta make it a symbol, Pete. You gotta make it a symbol.
Yes, a symbol of shit. Anyway, let's move on to the books then, I guess. We can move on with our lives. So, Strange Adventures, issue 5, Tom King and Mitch Gerads with Doc Shader. Issue 5 of this, we're almost halfway through. This is kind of the Alana more focused issue, which we're kind of expecting based on the cover. And although, despite the fact that it's definitely her issue, and it's definitely more of a focus on her, I still feel like it intentionally doesn't actually want to completely give away her motivations or what's going on in her head. It's very much still playing it as
it definitely presents her as even less trustworthy than we were suspecting.
Yeah.
But I think this issue spends enough time with Adam as well that it balances enough that we're kind of just enough that it gives us what he's feeling and why he's there with her.
Yeah, it definitely shows her cutthroat side. Like if this is Game of Thrones, this is the episode where Cersei shows her hand, right? And you're like, oh no, she's just not wearing dresses and talking with people. She's running shit. And that's the vibe I got from here, even in the Shaner section, which we always was like, oh, this is the more positive spin.
The darkest moment, or the darkest thing she says in the issue comes in the Shaner section. It's just when she says she'll kill them all after they win.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like going like, wait, this is supposed to be like the bright and sunny. Hey, look what we did on Rand. But it also shows how dedicated to the cause of uniting Rand she was, right? Like she's not going to let the Rock people get in the way.
Yeah, her and Adam, and the Shader side of the story, they go to the Rock people to try and form an alliance. When they give their proposal, they're told to wait for a day, but Adam misunderstands, and turns out a day down there is measured on the rocks and the waves above the rocks. Yeah. So it's actually a month in real time because it's actually tied to the moon cycle rather than anything else. And it's them surviving for the month, killing cave alien rats for food and trying to find water, and it's a struggle to survive.
Turning them into makeup.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
that's pretty metal.
Having a big sex scene.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yes, they have a big raunchy sex scene.
which I was used to with Gerads, right, in Mr. Miracle, even though it wasn't like really raunchy.
It was intimate.
Yeah, this though was just like, oh geez, where you're like, oh yeah, these are the stories. They're really trying to sell copies of this book.
It's played up in the book, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Matt was getting all flustered in public reading his comic. Yeah, to go
I'm
somewhere
not gonna lie, I
private.
did. I got a little red in the face. I'm a good boy. You can't be reading this in public.
Oh dear. And a lot of the other stuff on present day on Earth is about kind of the politics of preparing for this Pict invasion that's coming. And there's a hearing where Alana goes, and after Martian Manhunter essentially gives the Superman speech of, we will get through this, hope, all the rest of it, all that jazz. Alana says, no, bullshit. Like, this was the hardest fight we ever faced on Ran. Our technology was way ahead of what yours is now, and we still failed. And it's all, it all feels very cynical and jaded, but ultimately there's a purpose though. It feels like she's scheming. It feels like she's got an intention in her words. And one of my favorite page turns, I was going to say cut, because I think of page turns in a comic as a cut. It's a camera cut. It's when she's in the cave on Ran with Adam, and they're holding hands. She's talking about, my love, after this hell, we will do all this together, blah, blah, blah. We will take our paradise. And then you turn the page, and it's the Gerads page of her on the balcony looking down at Washington, and the bright light, and she's in the dress and the heels, and it's almost like...
sinister.
It's sinister. Yeah. It's like, instead of being like this paradise of like, oh, they found something happy, it feels like, no, her paradise feels a little bit more malicious than that. Like, she's taking control.
There's almost an implication
conquering.
that Earth is going to be her paradise.
Yes. But from the inside, she's going to take control by, although maybe not. Maybe we're going to find out she does have some sort of good pact with the. That said, part of me feels like all of this is building to her not actually being as, obviously evil as this is pointing more and more towards her being.
Yeah. She's the way that I'm reading it is she's a child of war, and then this is all she's known, and she's really good at it. She's gotten good at the politics side. So so to us, the uninitiated, it looks like she's making these big power moves, but it actually is going to be for protection, because unless she's also pulling both sides, like that Pict robot showing up in Gotham, like that's a pretty big deal. But I still don't trust Rand, right? Because the conversation that she and Adam have as he's on the way back to her, as he's all in his jetpack and whatnot, about what Mr. Terrific did there and how he hit Sardath, and Adam's like, oh, Sardath, the nicest man I've ever met, and it's almost like he's been brainwashed by their culture and whatnot. And but no, I definitely feel she's an ends justify the means, and that if the Picts are the actual big bad and it's not Rand, then she's doing this all for a reason, and she'll be justified soon enough.
Yeah, you mentioned the robot, the drone that appears in Gotham. That the cameras spot Batman fighting, and that's kind of what gets all this stuff going. That's the idea that the invasion's finally coming. There's actually like a scout that's been sent ahead, and so
it feels very convenient, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all.
And it also makes me wonder of how much King's tipping his hand of like how the CIA operates. Like if this is stuff that's just normal when you're an agent.
It's very easy, or it's hard not to compare this to, say, Bush pointing at some potential weapons of mass destruction, and being like, well, there's stuff there. We need to do something.
Yeah,
it feels hard not to draw those parallels.
It's the justification. Right. There's like something she can point to and say, hey, this is why we have to take these precautions. And she's making the Justice League look bad. She said, hey, the Justice League say we've got this. We've fought all these enemies from all these various parts of the universe, and like we'll get through it. And she's basically trying to convince everyone that as good as they are, and as powerful and as tough as you think they are, you really are just going to sit around and like do nothing and hope that your heroes are going to save you. He's not going to like actually band together and do something about this. Yeah, and also, I mean, just to go back to that love scene, because I happen to be on that page right now, is they've been dehydrated, and they have this love scene after they find water. They were able to actually sort of like break some rocks apart, and they get some water coming through. And I'm like, yeah, because when you're dehydrated and you've been barely surviving off cave rats, you've got the energy for some sex after you have one drip of water.
Who knows what's in that water, man?
It's just laced with Viagra.
Yeah. Adam passes out because he only has enough blood to operate that thing.
Either you've got a choice. Either you're conscious or your dick is. You can't have both.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no. But again, I wasn't expecting that out of Shaner, right? Because Shaner is the more comic book traditional Silver Age, where that wasn't a thing in the Silver Age, right? Like, if there was a love scene, it was a kiss and a hug. Not a full on nastiness in a cave. So. Yeah.
Even the way she's like making a drink as she's talking to Adam over comms as he's flying back from some superhero business.
Yeah.
And she's waiting with just she's got the 2 glasses ready and Elan's, and it feels like all of this scheming.
It feels like the Manchurian Candidate, man.
Oh, but yeah, it feels like a political thriller where she's been scheming throughout the day, and him going off and fighting stuff with the Flash it's just background. It's literally a panel, as she's talking to someone else. It's very much what it is.
Also,
good panel, though.
Also, back in the scene on the balcony where she's talking with someone from the government.
Yeah.
Where she's out there smoking, and she's like, "Oh, is that allowed here?" And the person from the government's like, "Oh, well, I mean, it was traditional for the lawmakers to come out and have a celebratory cigar after passing a hard, resolution."
Yeah, it was intentioning the idea of members from opposite parties that would kind of, all right, well, job's done now. We might as well just relax and have a smoke.
And is there symbolism there in her doing it on her own then? If it's supposed to, traditionally both parties, the opposing sides of a debate, whatever it may have been. The fact that she comes out here and does it on her own.
I do like that they draw that there, that she's working. This is not all what it's cracked up to be. Like
even just mathematically, the idea of smoke, like covering things up. Like you'd be used to obscure things.
She says that too, that it's something about the air that's different here, and that's why
it's too clear. Is kind of what she says, basically.
Yeah,
not in so many words, but the smoke makes it feel like more familiar. So then the implication there is the air is cleaner and.
Right, which makes me wonder what the hell's happening on Rand, that they're this civilized, right? This far ahead technologically. Is it an atmospheric thing?
It could be just it could be that there's nothing wrong. It could be just their normal atmosphere, right. and this is different. But I think it's notable that comes again after the Paradise kind of beat.
Yeah.
And okay, she's kind of making it feel more like home, but this is better than home almost.
Right. Well, it also gives her that femme fatale. It cuts her that figure.
Oh, there's a lot of that, yeah.
Classic,
yeah.
Not so much in the book stuff, but in the present day stuff, she's constantly got femme fatale sort of looks and poses and.
So it just drives that home as well. Even the cover with her on it, it feels like an old detective book cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, which also makes me think, because no one would typically think of a press conference as a. As a paradise, idyllic type of scenery, like a setting, but somehow Gerads, through the coloring and the idea of all the camera flashes and whatever we're justifying with this lighting in the panels, for some reason Adam been up there at a press conference talking about this new task force that the president's letting them sort of run. It feels like a dreamlike, like this is the paradise she's building towards, where he's got this powerful position.
I think a lot of it is the soft colors, it's all kind of gold glow.
Yeah.
It's very much traditionally associated with good things, right? That's gold, and it's that glow and it's soft, and it's not all like harsh lighting. It's a really soft yellow.
Typically, when you have a scene like this in a book or a movie or whatever, this would be a very sterile scene almost. It'd be a lot of like grays and whites, and it'd be very, it tends to be more stark and harsh. Whereas a very intentional thing here to have it feel a bit more, I guess, happy, a bit more dreamlike.
I think what's an interesting choice is the yellow, because if I have seen this done before where they want it to feel, nicer than kind of the way you just described it, and they'll typically do it with greenery. and have the nature feel of like trees and grass around them a lot, and that'll give it a more natural feeling. So this here, because the gold, it's so unnatural. It's not a natural way of achieving this at all.
But it's also warm.
Yeah.
So
it's warm.
It's
I
welcoming.
I did like what Connor said there about it being unnatural, though, because the gold does cover up the action. Because they can actually see some bushes in the in the frame. They are there, but their colors completely masked by the gold.
I think it's really notable as well when we have I think it's the second panel on that page. It's the close up on the journalist asking the question. He is not completely tinted gold in the same way that everyone around him is, and it's the same on the top panel. Like, Adam and whoever's flanking him, they're kind of they're not obscured by the glow either. They kind of look like they've got a little bit of a tint. Don't get me wrong, because it's just the lighting around them, but they look normal as opposed to the crowd, which are this kind of just entity of this sea of gold. And again, it's when you get the focus on the journalist, it focuses in on him, and he becomes a bit more real. Because
well, and then when you get to the end too, where it kind of bleeds in to the Unified Ran.
Yeah, I wonder.
The Unified Ran image kind of has a lot of that, where the colors are kind of blending together, and it's wispy and dreamlike kind of too.
Yeah, I wonder if the idea that this paradise that she's kind of creating is kind of forced, and therefore it's this fake sheen over the top of things, and also then the idea that all of the people until they're focused on are just part of the masses, and if she is thinking like someone who's been in a war, if she's thinking of people as just part of an army or part of a whole for which you fight a war with, then ultimately they just all blend into a seamless crowd of people, right?
But they always say war is hell, right? And you talk to service people that have been over there and been in it, and then you talk to certain politicians that make it seem like it's this glorious thing when it couldn't be more from the truth. Which right?
is interesting from her perspective, though, because she actually was in the thick of it on Ran.
Right.
But like what you're saying here is that she's kind of like, because we're kind of viewing a lot of this from her perspective, even though she's not in this scene. I mean, she's even mentioned by the reporter. One of the questions is about why she's not there or whatever, and he said, "Oh, she's already working hard." But one of my favorite things in the book as well is earlier when she was talking to Adam on comms and talking about how this ridiculous investigation by Terrific, and she mentions like what we saw from Terrific on Ran. I love this dismissal from her in a couple of scenes. I think there's one here when she's she's just looking at Terrific in this scene when he's on TV.
I think it's Adam that dismisses it, because he mentions, my understanding is that they're actually really close to completion with their investigation. No, but it's all going to be fine.
No, but before that, she also dismisses it as something that's going to be over soon, and she dismisses it in a number of ways. And I think that's important, because would he be dismissing it on TV if she hadn't already dismissed it to him?
Right.
Possibly not.
And I think that's a really interesting thing, because part of me was getting excited because I'm like, I think this is where you're going to fail, because you're assuming that Mr. Terrific and Batman in the League are going to just let this drop.
Mr. Terrific could read Pick.
Yeah.
Right? They even bring that up.
Do you know what I'm getting between the three characters here? I'm getting Macbeth vibes.
Sure. And she's Lady Macbeth, right?
Whatever.
Yeah. Also, Connor, I want to bring up too where she's making the drink. That's definitely an old fashioned, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's Gerads.
I tweeted at Gerads, like, damn it, Gerads. Now I want one.
Yeah, like the orange in the background,
Yeah. I mean, she does the orange twist, and I'm like, damn it. I mean, could have at least included your recipe, Gerads, while you were at it.
Yeah, right. I saw that and I was like, oh, Connor, he's gonna.
Yeah.
He's gonna pick up on that too. So I thought that was funny.
It was really notable because obviously it spent like 3 panels just focusing on the making of it, and it was like not trying to hide it or anything. Which actually in these sorts of sequences in books and comics, they'll just have it's a drink. They won't focus on it. It'll just be in the background. Gerads cares.
If you follow him, It also reminded me of How to Drink, with the close-ups when they mix the drink there. Like it's a really clear, nice shot, and then like his coloring over that whole section, because they're in the desert, wherever they are, it's very Ran-esque, which I think is also
I think
interesting.
A great juxtaposition between her and the outside, because obviously you've got we're cutting back and forth between Adam jetpacking his way back to her, like going over like the desert and wherever he is, and it's this sun golden red hues. warm, natural, light. And then anytime it cuts back to her, it's a lot harsher green, and not a natural sort of green. It's the artificial lighting of it.
Yeah,
I think it's really
almost
really
like
nice.
it's almost go away green. Like at Disney, anything they don't want you to look at, they kind of paint this green because you don't want to look at it. So it is like this weird
kind of make you like not
combo.
notice it.
Yeah, the final scene of the book, though, as this press conference is wrapping up, we see Terrifics with Alana, and I suspect that we're maybe going to find out next issue what he's telling her or what he's he's found that he's bringing up. But the last page that we get is basically at this ceremony, this wedding or whatever it is, on Ran, sort of showing this unification, and we've got Alana and Adam with their daughter, with Alina, watching this, and the last line is very ominous. They say, "Oh, my little girl, look long. You'll remember this for the rest of your life," with life bolded. And part of we've been kind of speculating: is she really dead? Was there something else that happened? Blah blah. And this just flows fuel at the fire because I'm like, well, that life could be bolded because she is dead, and this is really bittersweet, and kind of it's going to be fuel for so much of the motivations that we have in present day. Or if there is some weird conspiracy, some sort of secret that's different from the what's been spouted so far, then it's also kind of interesting.
Now that you point that out, it is weird that this is over what looks like an arranged marriage between the Helitat and the Stone people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I'm almost wondering if Sardath or even Alana used her as a bargaining chip, and even Adam doesn't know.
That's possible. And I think it's really interesting on this last page, like just in general the crowd, as opposed to the one at the press conference. Look how green it is.
Yeah.
Look how it feels natural. But what's really interesting is she actively points out, it's like something I never dreamed I'd see, something like this. And the dreamed is bolded, and it's a nice contrast between what we were talking about earlier, where it felt dreamlike because of the unnaturalist color, whereas this here feels more natural in the art, but the dialogue is telling us the opposite.
Yeah, and I'm also getting from her dialogue here, she's not as world weary yet, too. Yes, she told the rock people she'll come and destroy them all, right? And that leads up to this. But also, there is that hope there. There's still that optimism for a better Ran, versus where I feel like where we see her in present day, that's someone that's seen some shit. She's very cynical about how everything works. So I wonder if whatever happens with the daughter is what drives her here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also, maybe this is a minor thing, but I also, maybe worth pointing out that the daughter's outfit is predominantly yellow, and I don't know if there's maybe an intentional colouring thing there with a lot of the stuff in present day having a yellow sheen over it, kind of like it's all clouded by the backstory that they have with their daughter.
I think, honestly, I would say in this context, yellow is the neutral colour, because for the flashback stuff, Adam's color is obviously red, and Alana's is blue, but both of them have yellow as the offset color. So that's kind of the neutral, and that's kind of the middle ground here. And Aaliyah, she's predominantly yellow, but has red at one end and then blue on the bottom in her outfit, and it feels like, okay, so yellow's this combination, like almost like she hasn't chosen a side yet, so she's predominantly one thing.
I can see that. It still works with the idea that the color yellow, the idea that yellow is kind of something they shared. So the daughter, is represented by yellow, and then you have that be kind of.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, this color that's then dominating everything. It's clouding everything in present day. Not that every scene in present day, because there's been scenes that's been other colors, but there's been a lot of yellow in this issue, which is why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
So no, there you go. Very strong issue. Not a surprise really at this point.
No.
Matt, what are you giving Strange Adventures issue 5?
I'm giving this one a 9.
Connor?
8.5 from me.
I'm probably going to agree with 8.5. I think it's really strong, and I like it more after we talked about it, which is kind of true for almost every issue of a Tom King 12-issue book. But but it doesn't stand alone as notably as some of the other ones do. I think so far.
9s are typically reserved for, that was amazing, like when I come out of it. This 8.5 is really, really good, but it's just not quite at that next level, is it?
Okay. DCeased Dead Planet issue 3, Tom Taylor, not to be confused with Tom King, who we just had. Also, I said refused, they're not confused, so let's just move on with our lives. Trevor Hairsine on the art. We had the big reveal last issue of Plastic Man. That's no river. That's not blood, it's plastic. And we had the payoff to it this time, and I have to say, Zatanna burning it all with hellfire, as the almost the Thing-esque kind of like contortions of the plastic trying to survive in the fire. Or
cool
even
as shit.
Maybe another example. I'm thinking kind of the Thing trying to survive in fire, but also maybe like the T-1000 and the molten metal. Yeah, that kind of vibe. Digging that a lot. So yeah, we get introduced to this basically some billionaire villains who have survived in Australia, and that's why the green's disturbed here. The Floronic Man's been kind of used as a sort of basically just a vegetation device.
I think they're just using him to grow food over and over and over again.
He's a production thing, and that pisses Swamp Thing off.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, he beheads Maxwell Lord with like one simple squeeze of a vine.
I love the sound effect for that was a pop.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, all this was delightful. I mean, I don't want to gloss over the first half too much because the art of Plastic Man on fire was glorious.
Yeah, so combining this with Suicide Squad, we definitely see Taylor's stance on billionaires using resources to their advantage in a not so good way. Which
I just saw 2019 in movies described as eat the rich was the theme of the year. Tom Taylor's running with that and going, no, this is it for comics this year.
But I do like the characters that are, because who's that? Penguin and Max Lord and Jason Blood. So I was trying to figure out some other ones, which you're more the magic side of things. Connor, is Jason Blood like a rich guy too?
Yeah, I didn't know that
old
actually.
English aristocrat sort of fella, isn't he?
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's more just the idea of he's that old, he's built up that much wealth.
Yeah, I never thought of him as being rich, so that did stick out to me.
I don't recall if he started off like when he was younger, if he was always like that. I don't recall that part. But I think it's just over the years he just built up wealth. He lives in a goddamn castle,
Right, and that's fine, but it got us to the demon. It got us Etrigan in this book. So, and what that hints at, which is stupidly exciting to me, and
also confirms that Tom Taylor says Constantine, not Constantine, because that is obviously a running debate amongst people.
No, it's not. No. It's not a debate. There's people who are wrong, and there's people who say Constantine. That's it. I mean, it's over.
There's the creator who says Constantine.
Constantine.
He's wrong.
Right.
And I'm not willing to say
you can pick fights with Alan Moore all you want. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't want to be cursed.
No, thank you.
Look, he's wrong, and while we're on it, the creator of the GIF try to say it's pronounced Jeff. No, it is GIF. You are wrong.
Look,
here's the thing.
If you want to play into this though of Constantine, have fun with it like Taylor does here.
By answering it in the form of a rhyme.
But not even that. He tells Etrigan, I don't got time for your rhyming bullshit, dude. And he does it anyways, almost to spite him. So maybe it is Constantine and not Constantine, but Etrigan used it as a rhyme to annoy him. So either way, it doesn't really matter.
So anyway,
right?
the thing that this reveals though, and again, this is Taylor just using more and more of the DC universe, just when you thought there was no corners left for him to, find something else. Here we go. So basically, hell is pissed because none of the souls are going to hell during the undead apocalypse, and as a result, Trigon is upset and is possibly coming to wreak havoc on everyone. So
I love the idea of Trigon as a Lovecraftian nightmare. So like I'm not big on him as a being for the Teen Titans to fight, right? But I love him as an idea that causes madness and is, Raven's burden and whatnot. So if that's the direction they're going here, although him standing there looking like a proper demon was a pretty good visual. But yeah, just the idea that he's pissed and he's gonna burn the earth. Yeah, that was cool.
That's some.
I mean, not to spoil everything, but this is not the only book I read this week with Trigon in. and it's notable how much better he is here. No, I'm not naming any names of what book Trigon may or may not be showing up in later on.
Wait, hard. But there's only one book Matt didn't read though, right? Oh, two. Didn't read Justice League. But
you didn't read it either.
What did you read?
There's something. We'll get there later.
Okay, so.
But there's nothing on the list. Why don't you tell me to add something to the list?
Because I didn't listen to you when you did the list. I just assumed. You think I listened to you?
Well, we know now you don't.
Well, it's not getting timestamped. It's not on my list. It's not getting timestamped. So, it'll just be a weird blank section in the timestamps, and it's Connor's fault. What else have we come out this week? Doesn't matter. Like, so there's a scene with Damien and Gordon, which is quite nice.
Really nice.
Where Damien goes in for a hug, and but what really made this work for me was the dialogue afterwards, where it's like, "Hey, it's a good job. None of the villains figured out that you could just get rid of Batman with some intimacy." And Jim's like, yeah, if he could be scared out of Gotham with a pat on the shoulder.
I love that.
It's weird seeing Damien this emotionally secure. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Damien has the potential to be this. I'm just so used to seeing him still in angry teenager phase that it's weird seeing him.
Right, but when you grow up in, Superboy's your best friend who becomes Superman, like it changes you.
You're dragged kicking and screaming into emotional maturity.
Yeah, and I kind of like that because that makes sense for Damien, that he wouldn't want to become his father, so he does the opposite. That's what type of kid he is.
John wakes up from his injuries, hangs out with Mary Marvel. Not much to say, but it's there.
Yeah, I did like that because it kind of teases. I always love when they pair up the Shazam family with the Super family.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that that's there, I like them interacting.
But anyway, who do the billionaires have around but Professor Ivo? And what does that mean? It means Amazos. Multiple Amazos. So the team retreat, thinking like we'll have to come back and deal with these billionaires at some point. But they've got an entire assembly line. We see dozens and dozens. We're probably meant to assume there's hundreds of Amazos under their control.
And this army.
This is the problem because their plan is just we got Amazos. Let's go wipe out all the zombies and we can go back and have the world to ourselves.
Which I actually quite like that now it's about saving the zombies, bizarrely. I think that's a nice touch.
Yeah, because like a few issues ago, if this plan had been in the what was the other mini that we had in between them?
Unkillables.
Unkillables, yeah. If this plan had been in there, we'd have gone, this is a great plan. This is exactly what they should be doing. Yeah, it seems harsh, but hey,
Yeah, but now we have the tease that there's a cure, and that the souls aren't going to hell, which means they're probably also not going to the other place.
Which means they're not going anywhere, which means they're still in there.
They're retrievable, right. Yes.
Exactly. So having the Amazos kill them all now is a superhero problem, and they have to save the day, which I love that it's a post-zombie story, right? It's not about the zombies anymore. It's back doing superhero shit.
It's back to superheroes. We just happen to be saving zombies now.
Yeah, and it all leads to Constantine going to Mr. Miracle. This is the first part of the plan. He goes with Bobo.
They need the other half. So if there's an anti-life equation, right, there must be a life equation. Yeah,
they're hoping that the Mother Box is going to help some answers, and he's got one. And basically, Constantine, he says, Superman, you'll come into play later, probably saving everything. But he's like, hey, Wonder Woman being Cassie, of course, I need to borrow something. And you assume it's probably the lasso, but you don't actually get to see it yet. And it's not until he's in the scene with Mr. Miracle, who is so jaded. Bard is gone. He is miserable. He's got the big caveman hair, the beard, all the rest of it. And he said, hey, there's a way to save her. And Mr. Miracle doesn't, really believe him, but he holds up the lasso in his hand and says, ask me. So it's kind of this play to get him on board, to get Scott-Free on board. And I like that. So, the ending is basically this alliance kind of forming and
Yeah.
And right, because
I like that everyone knows Constantine enough that without that lasso, no one's believing a word that comes out of his mouth.
No, of course not. But I also love that out of everybody that escaped this, virus, because we saw Mr. Miracle go down, with the rest of the Justice League.
He was in the bar, wasn't he? He was in the Oblivion bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Beetle and Barda and all of them, and he still managed to escape it. And so, there's something with the new gods that counteracts this,
Well, I say, of course, Mr. Miracle escapes even this death,
Right?
Because he escapes.
But there is precedent here though, because we did see Slade's healing factor held it in check numerous times.
Mm-hmm.
Until finally he had no more head, so there's no more nothing much else to do.
Yeah,
so
honestly,
there are limits to this.
When you're in a zombie apocalypse situation, you really have to keep your head on. Otherwise,
you do.
Otherwise,
this
is going to go well.
That's like the one rule in a zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
Heads are the most important part.
Even for the zombies, they have to keep their heads on, or they're screwed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes all sense. So that's issue 2. I liked it a lot. I think because issue 2 had the great ending, but I thought it was maybe a bit of a quieter issue in the first chunk, right? Even though it was about the cure being a thing.
I do feel like Taylor is leaning into more of these. I don't want to say shock for shock value, but like the first issue ended with with John getting stabbed through, right? And it looks dire. The second issue ended with Zatanna looking like she was gone down, inhaling a chunk of Plastic Man. But I do feel like he's definitely leaning more into that side of comic storytelling versus what he's been doing, which is cool.
Yeah, there's not one of
surprises.
Those cliffhangers in this issue, though.
No.
I think it's a more consistent issue because we have the action actually a bit more spread out with the zombie stuff at the start and then the Amazo stuff maybe 2/3 through.
Yeah, that's all I was really trying to say. Is I think this issue is more even overall.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting with the pace and the way it cuts back and forth because we got all the stuff with the those characters in the bunker, but we cut back to the main camp and see John, for example, and whoever.
I also feel like Hairsine, while doing all the cool zombie stuff, some of the facial stuff in this one was a little bit of a step back. That's just personal preference.
I've always thought his faces were a bit off, but
yeah, but it's been pretty. The first 2 issues were pretty consistently decent. And this one, like, not that it felt rushed, but definitely felt more of the Hairsine vibe. Like he was a little bit looser than he has been. So yeah.
All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor?
It's another 8.5 from me.
I'm going to agree with Matt this time and go with the straight 8. Really good. I love how Taylor keeps finding new things to use in this universe from DC's like wide, history. So that's DCeased Dead Planet issue 3. Batman 98, James Tynion the 4th, Jorge Jimenez on the art. We're building up to that issue 100, and we're about halfway through the Joker War now. And we have Batman in kind of his, Vision Quest state, lying there in
Tripping
Ivy's
balls on ayahuasca.
And we have Harley and Punchline, and I think Harley's bad names for Punchline are getting better. So what she called up, what she call her, punching bag. Yeah, I like that. That one was kind of witty, actually.
Well, and we got more of the, you don't know Joker, I know Joker. You can think you do, and it really defined Punchline more.
Yeah, and I like it with Punchline kind of being like, no, you just want everyone else to be making the same mistakes you did, so it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
I like that back and forth.
I'm inclined to believe Harley a bit more, especially since when Harley says, because they're obviously they're fighting as they're doing this, Punchline's got a flamethrower, there's all this stuff going on. Harley eventually kind of makes a final point towards the end, where she says, no matter what you do, he will never care about you more than he cares about that bat. And it's that thing where I'm like, yeah, Harley's right. And Punchline is so blinded by her idealism of Joker to see past that.
And I like that she summed up the difference between herself and Punchline as well. She says, I thought Mr. J had a heart, you think he has a brain. Yeah. And it shows that difference. For Harley, it was an emotional connection. Whereas Punchline, it's not in the same way.
It's an intellectual. He's got it. Yeah. Well, I also like that it seems that Tynion's taking on the people that think the Joker's a hero in a lot of stuff. It's like, guys, at the end of the day, he's a psychopath. So stop reading into it. Like, he doesn't have anything figured out. He's out there to cause as much chaos as he can.
Yeah. And Jimenez is actually good. When we start off in Batman's head, he's like welding something, and I thought the glow and the sparks of the welding looked really good.
Yeah. And I do love how he's. Go ahead, Connor.
So I was gonna say, is it Moray on the colors still? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
If we're complimenting the sparks and stuff, especially, deserves a shout out.
I also love that Batman going through and what's the word I'm looking for? Like he's not rationalizing, but he's going over Alfred's death, right? But he's going to like these happy times where he just figured out batarangs, you know, and it's an earlier, more pure stage of him being Batman, and he's almost looking to Alfred for approval, like, hey, look at the stuff I figured out, you know, and it was weirdly heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah, I was a little concerned after the last issue that, I mean, I enjoyed the last issue, but I was a little bit worried that sometimes these kind of all in their head things can just kind of like, you can see what they're trying to do, but it's overused to the point where it kind of falls flat a lot of the time.
And it wasn't that long ago we suffered through nightmares.
Yeah. I actually think this did a really good job to the point where, by the time it makes its point at the end, where, because I think one of my favorite, moments of the week is probably when, Batman says, Alfred's like trying to give him the pep talk. There's you can save the city, blah blah. And he's like, I can't do it alone. And he's like, well, don't. Like, you've got a family, don't. And he points out that I'm not really Alfred, I'm just you in your head. So the idea that Batman in his own head is like, yeah, I'm being a bit of an idiot. Why do I keep trying to do this on my own? Like, I've got an entire family of people. So the idea of like getting to issue 100 and sort of like kind of celebrating the unity of the Bat family in some way is, I think, very, very much plays to my my tastes, I think. But so I actually think both sides of this issue worked really well. I thought the stuff in Batman's head was really good. I thought the fight between Harley and Punchline was good, particularly the dialogue and the way they were kind of going over their histories and what was different about them.
Go on, Matt.
I was gonna say, I do like, I said it before, but I like Tynion. This is his mission statement for Harley versus Punchline, right? How they are different, and I like how that comes about through a fight or a conversation between them. Like, that's really smart. Like, it's given me shades of Detective Comics, of some of the stuff that he did there to get with the characters, and like the whole thing of him coming to family, right? And that's almost kind of Harley also being part of that weirdly now. Like, she's this weird step member.
She kind of
she's kind of
fitting into the role where Catwoman was 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, because we're at the point now with Catwoman where she's actually so far gone that she's in the lair with the villains, and she's like, no, we're going to help goddamn Batman now. You're going to let me out here, and we're going to do this.
She's actual Bat family member, because that is, she's the mom now.
I think the difference right now between Catwoman and Harley in that scale of things is Catwoman's, we're going to help Batman, and Harley's like, I need Batman to help me.
Yeah.
Right. But I do like, that's why I said she's this weird step member of, like, super far removed from the Bat family, but it still reinforces what Bruce is coming at, that you're going to need help.
As close as Jason is.
Sure. I would say even closer, at certain points, but because she's the one that got him out of this, right? She's the one that brought him into Ivy's hideaway, and gave him the stuff to get him there to purge the toxins, So, but like you said, it's she's still acting out of self-interest. It's not about Gotham versus Catwoman. But no, I just, again, it's super solidly written. And then Jimenez is just, I can't ask for a better artist.
Yeah, I thought all of the dialogue, all the stuff with Alfred and Bruce, and it's not really Alfred, of course. It's just Bruce's own inner psyche, but
which he kind of accepts at one point.
Yeah, but I almost everything that, once it got to a certain point in the last few pages of it, like almost everything was clicking for me in a way where so many writers try and do kind of this emotional stuff with Batman, but this idea of like the burden you put on yourself with the sort of the promise you made after the death of your parents is eating away at you. And it's not that you shouldn't have the hope of building something better or saving people, but it's that you're never going to like control everything. So accept what you can control. And every time you save someone, every life you save is a victory against death. It's a victory against the Joker. Like, everything about it, I just felt like this sort of redefining of accepting what Batman is to himself, which is why I think when he wakes up in time to save Harley, and I love this page. I love the, I mean, forgetting the fact that it says Batman in the cape, right? But even just the classic, Batman thing of like just sort of like being big and scary and then wrapping the cape around whoever he's, taking out.
I love and hate this moment. I love the art. I love
Yeah.
the sequential storytelling. The way the panels above it are getting smaller and smaller. It's counting down to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the I'm Batman. The way the Batman is splashed across the cape. It is every part of him is Batman in that moment. I
Mhm.
love that. I hate the whole I'm Batman thing just because this is peak because Batman, isn't it? Of how did you get rid of those toxins? It's not possible. You had so much because Batman.
Well, no, but it's because Harley though. Like really, like
Yeah, Harley gave him some stuff, and then I like the idea
Yeah.
that he got out of it because he worked through all the things that the toxins were making him
right.
address. So I mean, I'm
Mhm.
not like I'm fine with that. I don't care.
No, but like again, I'm with Connor that I kind of hate it, but it's also a really cool visual and like representative of him now. Like, okay, he's reinforced now and he's ready to take on the Joker, and it's a real cool image for that. You know,
It's a
so,
very
yeah.
it's a very new take on a classic Batman kind of moment, right? A classic Batman
Mhm.
action. The giant just sort of bat logo almost looking just shape of him with the cape, and then the covering of the person. Because the next page he's just carrying her. He's just and I like the little joke here where he's like, because she's like, hey, is your head on straight? He's like, that depends. He's like, no, the place is on fire. That's not that's not hallucination.
Yeah.
He's like, well then, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, and it
And
does.
then we have the terrible pun.
The pun or the battery. Do you know what?
Oh.
Do you know what?
I hate it.
Harley's reaction made this work for me. Him saying, I call it the battery, and her going, no, you effing don't.
Yeah.
Made me laugh.
I think it's the sort of moment where we had a very similar moment in an issue of Metal recently, but because Metal is so over the top and doing that, it made me laugh. Whereas in here, I don't know, it didn't quite land as well for me.
Yeah. But no, I liked him putting out the call for Bat family members, and it says which ones you want to call or locate, and he's just like, I need everyone, this kind of thing. And then the last page is actually Catwoman kind of saying, hey, you guys are going to help me, like help Batman take back the city, and they're like, well, how would we do that? Well, I can make you a billionaire, which I'm not sure if I believe she's going to do that, but still.
I mean, I think
Right.
she might if it's what it takes.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why does Riddler look normal again?
Because it's not Gillen March.
Other look was stupid.
Good answer, I suppose. I think we were giving March the benefit of the doubt that there was a reason he looked so demented.
No.
Because he has to start casually looking more and more like Paul Dano over the next year or two.
True, there's that. Though, but from watching the Harley show, I think that's also a pretty good version that is complete opposite of
Yeah.
That said,
this
honestly,
has Jim Carrey vibes from Forever.
Oh, I can see that.
Just the suit and the hair.
I will say, I think the art's at its weakest when it's at the Penguin's lair, this ice place. I think Riddler and the surroundings are probably the weakest art in the book.
Yeah, Jimenez is really good at action-y stuff, but then even like the dialogue with Bruce and Alfred was good because it's not like, but there's not a lot going on. Like I feel like Jimenez needs stuff like kinetic.
I like some of the way maybe the art itself is maybe a little bit stilted in these sections, but I like the pacing of it. Like on the very first page, the close up on Scarecrow, and then Riddler leaping over the table at him, and then the way Catwoman's kind of just relaxing at the bar, but a bit nervously looking up at the.
I don't know. I do like the idea of Riddler getting mad because he's losing at chess to Scarecrow. That is funny to me.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike. Attack of the Mike.
Just one of my favorite art moments in it is actually in the fight with Harley and Punchline. It's one of the times where Harley kicks it, and it looks like it's straight out of like a manga for a second. But then the panels as she kicks Punchline, the next panel kind of falls with Punchline. I thought that was really smart. Just some really strong storytelling pacing.
The art is really good. Pretty much overall, I think almost everything with Batman and Batman and Alfred is good, and I think the fight with Harley and Punchline is good. It's just the stuff with Riddler and that. I feel it looks a little bit. I don't know. Just a little bit more laney, a little bit more over the top.
I wonder if part of it is the dramatic color shift, because obviously it goes from everything kind of having these bright, strong, dark, like deep colors. but everything in the and warm colors as well. But obviously in the Iceberg Lounge, wherever they are, it's all blues, whites, very pale.
Well, the whole point of this is to hide from the Joker. I'd like to think that the hiding place is not just the Iceberg Lounge.
Honestly, I'm assuming it might just be somewhere under the Iceberg Lounge, knowing Penguin.
Joker will never find his way. You have them in the factory? It's the
last place I'll ever look.
That was a reference to the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when Spike kidnaps Xander and Willow and just puts them in the same lair that he always used before, and Buffy basically just guesses it. Good episode.
Sure.
Lover's Walk. It's a good episode.
Yeah, but Joker doesn't have those deductive skills.
Well, I don't think he's looking for all of them. He's more focused on creating a war.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that I don't think the villains are actually hiding from Joker. They're just hiding out from the chaos and
sure.
Yeah.
I think this arc's been getting better and better, and I think this issue sufficiently got me kind of hyped for the payoff to what it's building to. So I don't know if I can really say much more positive things than that.
Yeah, Tynion really knows Gotham. Like it's like him and Higgins, because Higgins is another one that I trust with like Nightwing stuff. Yeah. Like if we could get Higgins and Tynion doing Batman stories,
if they were like the team on Batman and Tech, that would be a great duo.
Right. Or even just put him back on Nightwing,
I didn't really like Higgins Nightwing, so I'm not on board with this plan.
I'll enjoy it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't recognize the Starfire and New Order, so.
That was like what episode number? That must have been the 60s or something like that. It was ages ago.
Way
so funny.
Yep.
All right. What are you giving this issue of Batman, Matt?
I'm gonna give this an 8. I really enjoyed this one.
Connor?
Yeah, 8 from me as well.
I'm going to nudge it up to 8.5. I really like this. I think Batman's the best it's been since Tynion took over. And arguably the best it's been since King was at some of his better sections of his run.
Yeah, definitely since the courtroom stuff. I'll say that much.
So, no, I dug this issue a lot. All right. Justice League 52, Geoff Loveness writing with Robson Rocha on the art. I believe I'm the only one who read this because I'm the only one who read the first part of this story. So I'll be quick about this. There's not a whole lot to say. It's a Black Mercy story, focusing mainly on Batman. Although it does have kind of a really sweet ending between Batman and Superman, because obviously it's just a two-part. Doesn't have a whole lot of time to do anything super great. You've got Martha in the Black Mercy trying to talk to Bruce, saying she wants her son back, and the art's quite good from Rocha as well, which is nice. There's a great moment where Batman tries to feel strong inside the Black Mercy dream, and he kind of turns into a giant, sort of more demonic looking version of Batman and says, "Get out!" As if his psyche's kind of fighting back. And she's like, "Oh, you can't scare me. This won't work." Blah blah blah. What I think worked about this story for me, which is ultimately this Martha saying, "Hey, you made this promise, and you." She says, "My son died that same night. I want my son to live, not this monster that took over instead of him." And I think what made this story work is because it actually ties very nicely into the context of some other stuff in the DC universe right now. Specifically, the hints that we've had in past issues of how Batman feels about Superman revealing his identity to the world. And it kind of, comes up that, hey, don't you believe in a happy end? Don't you believe you could have some sort of life? And, you keep building these family members, but you're going to end up cold and alone and bitter and all these things. And as this is happening, Wonder Woman ends up holding the lasso and breaks out of the vines, and then she gets the others out. So they're all kind of fighting. Eventually, when they break Batman out of it, he just kind of stands there as the others all fight the thing, and they all fight Black Mercy instead of him. And she tries to show him this world where maybe he can have a happier ending, where he leaves the Justice League, where he actually tries to rehabilitate Harvey Dent and works with Mr. Freeze to develop cures for things and makes the world a better place, and it's a happy Bruce Wayne. And it's the whole idea of him believing in some sort of happy ending. And he feels kind of guilty for, taking his mind off the mission, off the war that he's committed to, for believing in a happy ending. So they leave the planet. There's some gorgeous few pages where there's no dialogue of the Justice League just sort of dealing with everything and running off the planet, flying away. And it ends with, in Gotham, Batman's on a ledge, as he often is. Superman flies down. and Superman tells him the story of the first time that he ever encountered the Black Mercy, and that it showed that he had a son, and it had to, this was back in the early days of Superman. No one knew who he was yet, other than his parents, obviously, and he basically, in the years since that first encounter, he, told Lois he now has a son. He has this life, and he basically tells Batman to not feel guilty about actually still wanting better in your life. It's just being alive. There's nothing wrong with that. And I used to have like dreams about this fictional son that I never actually really had for a long time, because I was consumed with the idea of having this better life. And over time, he's built it. He found that life that he wanted. And that Batman still has time for this. So it's a really sweet thing that kind of ties in nicely to what their relationship's been recently, I think. And it ends in this kind of little moment where Batman asks him, what did it show you this time? This time when you were connected to Black Mercy? Because we never saw anyone else. We see what Batman saw in the Black Mercy. And he just says, it showed me right now. And it ends with this gorgeous full-page spread of them standing sort of on the sledge side by side. Well, I think Superman's actually floating behind his cape, but whatever. So I think is a little 2-part fill-in, which is essentially all this Justice League book's been for a while, is fill-ins, because it's not got a run.
Right.
This is maybe my favourite one of the bunch because it looked really nice. It was tying in nicely to where these two characters are, specifically Batman, in the continuity right now, and made a nice little point, and was kind of uplifting by the end. So
yeah, I definitely like the reference for the man who has everything. That's my favorite Superman story. So that's real. I like that he brought that in. And it's not necessarily canon now, but the idea that Black Mercy showed him, and that's where we get one of my favorite moments, is when he just has enough and fires the heat vision at Mongol, tells him to burn. It's great. But I like that it went with the emotional thing here.
It's one of those things where it's as in continuity as you want it to be. So if you believe it's in continuity, just go with it.
Right.
So no, I solid 8 for me. I enjoyed the issue. I think Rocha's art is very pretty, and it does let it show off in a number of pages. I think Loveness knows how to keep the dialogue down to what's needed, and
that's good.
Not overstuff it. So
it's refreshing for someone who is relatively new to comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw one of our listeners said they'd love to see him on an ongoing, and I'd be game. I like this 2-parter. I like the issue he did on Shazam. He's got one more on Shazam, actually, bizarrely.
Is Loveness the person who's doing the Flash after this?
I don't think so.
No, that's a completely different name, because I didn't recognize who it was.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remembered it being someone. I thought maybe it was this. But
nah.
Fair enough.
So no, 8 out of 10 for me. Just like, I think 51 and 52 is a nice little 2-parter. It's not a must-read by any means, but if you were reading the series anyway, or want a little 2-parter to read, kind of.
Wait, are we sure? Because Loveness comes from screenwriting, and I think I remember saying that. Maybe they both are. Because I thought that was the.
It's definitely not Loveness on.
It's the person.
Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind. There was never Loveness on that Flash afterwards.
No. But yeah, this guy worked on Rick and Morty. Apparently he's doing the Ant-Man and Wasp sequel. So, cool.
Yeah. All right. Shazam issue 14, Geoff Johns writing with Dale Eaglesham and Scott Kolins on the art. So it's not the final issue of the book, but it is the final issue of the Geoff Johns story.
Man, this is such a... I know. People have issues with Johns and Superboy Prime, and they feel that Prime doesn't have a place in 2020. Although, dealing with people on the internet, I disagree, because there's a lot more Superboy Primes out there. So I feel he has a role, just don't use him all the time. So I just wish we could have had more. And I know I'm probably in the minority. I wish I could have seen Billy in Jerkbag Superboy Prime interact more.
Oh, I mean, I obviously I wanted a long run for this the whole time. It's disappointing that it's only 14 issues, slightly less because there's a fill-in.
12, right? Because there was 2.
Was it 2 fill-ins?
2? No,
maybe 2 fill-ins. I'm sure.
Was there?
Or maybe there's going to be. Either way, it's either 12 or 13 issues, and it started with such promise.
Because this issue's fine. It recaps kind of the Shazam story so far, including the origin story from the Justice League backups. And we get fights. We get Superboy Prime, punches through the heart of Scapegoat. Scapegoat is dead. R.I.P. Scapegoat.
Yep. See ya.
And all the action's fine. Miniaturized Shazam fighting Mr. Mind.
I love how he figures out that he can't do spells without talking.
Mm-hmm.
But all I could think of was in Harry Potter when Snape's trying to teach Harry the nonverbal spells. And I was like, man, if Mr. Mind had listened to Snape,
I don't know if this is an intentional thing or if I'm just like making a jump here. But the full page spread where Billy, or Shazam I should say, smashes the radio that he uses to talk.
Yeah.
He yells out "no more spells," and I was like, is this meant to be like a weird sort of jab at no more mutants? The way he's saying it. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
It was just a specific phrasing that stuck out to me.
Yeah. But like I did like that. I liked him using magic because I feel like that's something that Johns has been trying to push since he wrote since he wrote Captain Marvel back in Justice Society.
Yeah.
He wanted him to be like this magical type character, not just Magic Superman.
There's definitely a point here where I was sort of thinking, okay, so Superboy Prime's here, they've kind of... And Superboy Prime takes out most of the Marvel family. He basically he gets souped up with magic from the previous brass, so he basically punches the Shazam out of the others.
He punches Eugene and Pedro back into being kids.
Yeah. It does to everyone, but obviously Billy himself. And I was sort of thinking, okay, so what's the purpose of having this Superboy Prime tease and having this fight here at the end? And the fight, the purpose of this, which I think is really good, and I would have loved like another arc building to this, like properly with Superboy Prime as the villain. But the point is that Captain Marvel and Black Adam have to team up to fight Superboy Prime. They have to combine their strength to the point where they have to agree to both say the word. And Black Adam's like, yeah, but I'll die very quickly if I turn back to my true self.
Dust.
And he's like, I promise I'll lend you my magic to bring you back afterwards. And he does, so there's this trust that kind of forms, and the book ends with Black Adam basically saying, hey, I say end, it's way before the end, but he says, as long as you don't come to Kandak, our rivalry's done. We'll live, in peace. So they fight Superboy Prime, it is what it is. It's good. And, I do like that at the end, the wizard's kind of watching from above and kind of says... one day they'll redeem the 7th champion, and the final page is showing that the 7th person who's meant to be sitting there at the Rock of Eternity is Black Adam. He's supposed to be the 7th with the family. Right.
Which, looking at how Johns has written Adam throughout his career, this is his end game. I always feel like Black Adam, for all his faults and whatnot, like he is that character that he can do good.
And the sad part is that I can see the great 50-issue run that builds up to this ending happening. And instead, because I really like this ending here, but it's a shame that I don't think we're ever going to get the actual story of getting to that point.
Well, and I also feel like it gets into the movie territory as well with his dad, and we go over the beats that were featured in the movie, and they kind of tease about the mom.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit.
Don't worry, Pete. You'll get the next part of this story from maybe not from Johns, but from someone when the next movie's coming out.
Oh, very possibly. But there's a nice touch here where Billy gets to confront his father about his fatherhood, but not as Billy. He does it as Shazam. So his dad doesn't know. The last thing he remembers is getting taken in Chicago. He doesn't remember anything that's happened. And so we get this thing where Shazam asks him a couple of questions, and he gets really bad answers.
Yep.
So he just lets him go. He lets him walk away from his life because clearly his family's what he's made now.
Family.
Yeah.
Right. That's who you make it, and I do like that. And I like that. He chooses Adam, right? Despite all this stuff, and from what we've experienced, just in this continuity of the character, it's not as much, but it's enough that he does, and he gives him his power, and that's something I always loved about when I was learning about Shazam is he shared his powers with Freddy and with Mary, and that was always a part of it. So the fact that Johns has made that how he works. He can split it at least 7 times, There
was a point
really cool.
in the narration towards the end where he's talking about how, we had to go save all the magic lands from all their threats. Yeah. And it basically, in the narration boxes, describes a few adventures they had. And I'm like, these were clearly going to be arcs in this ongoing story. Had he written the whole thing.
The Game Master and the Wildlands. And
or the Darklands where they teamed up with Ghost Patrol to defeat Dracula. I want that arc.
I want this, please. Hey, if they're gonna do it as OGNs, cool.
Sure.
I'll buy them. Like, I love Shazam. Like, I love this world. But yeah, no, man, it just sucks that it gets upended, and I don't know what Johns is doing. I don't know what he's preoccupied with.
Stargirl season 2, I expect.
Yeah, I'm wondering, but
How involved is he in the potential Green Lantern show as well?
I think so. As I remember him being involved, but we'll see.
But it is kind of a circuitous route for him that he started as Richard Donner's, assistant, and then worked his way to comics, and now he's working back in TV and in movies.
It makes sense. Started on screen, come back to screen.
And I get it, and I've enjoyed his run in the comics. Like, I can't tell you I'm sure there's some that I've forgotten that I didn't enjoy as much. But yeah.
A good, 15 to 20 years out of him being consistent.
Yeah. So, man, but I just want more, it's that thing.
Yeah, so, I think if you look at it's basically the end of it's basically 2000.
Yeah, I mean,
11.
Stars and Stripe, which was what, like 98, 99?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I'm kind of seeing like the end of his Green Lantern Justice League is kind of the end of his ongoing comic book tenure.
Yeah, which, I mean, that Justice League ran right up until the end of the New 52, right? As under Johns.
Yeah, technically it did to 2016, yeah.
Well, it went to like issue 50 because the last couple were tie-ins to other things that weren't the Dark Side War stuff.
Yeah, but it was still made because those last two issues came after Rebirth. They came like weirdly.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
Yep. So, but he took us right there, and just like his take on Wally is iconic, and him bringing Barry back, and you know.
I mean, and obviously
about 17 years of him being very consistently putting out books every month. And
you know what? We do have 3 Jokers right now. We had Doomsday Clock. I feel like, he's probably going to keep doing Black Label minis and things like that.
Yeah,
it seems like that's where he's going to be now.
His days being the wizard of the multiverse are definitely gone, but he does have these ideas that fit outside of that, like, Doomsday Clock and the metaverse.
I'm not expecting to see another ongoing from him for maybe in a decade or so. When,
but again,
the situation has changed.
He wants to do these Shazam stories and make them, Black Label graphic novel, or like the 3 Jokers where they're 3 big issues, But don't give him more graphic novels to do. We've still got a Batman Earth 1 to come yet. Sure, but I'd rather have Shazam than that.
I mean, that's fair, but I just meant on the point of how many years I've been waiting for that now.
True, but I mean, that's Frank too. Like,
that is Frank too. Yeah, but I mean, both of them went, we'll do Doomsday Clock instead. Which, don't get me wrong, was better
Great
than...
trade.
Yeah. Like, I'm 100% confident it's better than
whatever. And out of those Earth
Batman.
ones, that the Batman are the ones that I enjoy the most. I still haven't read the Green Lanterns, which I'll get to. But everything else I've read, I've enjoyed. So
yeah, I mean, the first Green Lantern one was good. I think the second one came out just a few months ago.
It did.
I'm looking forward to checking that out. And then I do want to read the Wonder Woman one. I want to read Morrison and Paquette's take on that.
Was there a volume 2 recently?
I think there was.
There was a second volume.
That one. The first volume is very, very good, because it's just Morrison doing Morrison things that I like.
That's exactly why I'm looking for that. I
not
suspect it's very untraditional Wonder Woman.
No, but it's actually more traditional in who the character is. Like, he understands, the what's the guy that created her and his psychology of the character. Yeah, the professor. It's kind of his take on that, and the strength of femininity versus chauvinism. And so if you love Super Gods, which I know you do, it's definitely more in that take of what she represents as a character versus like his stuff on versus his stuff on Green Lantern is like, let's get weird, so yeah. But anyways, we should rate Shazam, Pete.
Yeah, we've wrapped up what are you giving it, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5, because it's so good, but it just kind of ends. Like, you could just tell, like, hey, I'm gonna end this in a page, and it just.
I'd give it a bit more leeway and say it takes about maybe 5 pages at the end to just sort of epilogue the shit out of it.
That's what I mean. It just it comes up to that epilogue where you could tell there was more.
Yeah, but of course, unlike, say, Green Lantern, which he also kind of did a similar ending to, that was after such a long run that it felt earned to do this kind of, and then the legend grew from here. kind of thing.
There's still stuff there. I mean, when he created Jess and hinted that something's to come with her, and they kind of touched on it, but it was just enough that now we have Jess as a character, hopefully, in the future.
Oh yeah, but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm just making is that that came after such a long run that it was okay for me to do these kind of epilogue sort of general statements. Whereas this is after 13 issues. It's not really not enough's happened to really feel like he's earned some sort of big sort of send off kind of thing.
True.
I'll give it a 7. Like I say, I still enjoyed reading it. There's still things to like. Art's a little bit inconsistent.
That's the one that got me.
But hey, all right. Young Justice issue 18, Brian Michael Bendis writing with Scott Godlewski and Michael Avon Oeming for the art. So that's I was interested to get into this one because I've been kind of a weird place with Young Justice where I actually quite liked the last issue, even though it came at a weird time. Like it should have been like an issue or two earlier. This issue I like probably more than I have in a while because it was really focused. I actually feel like it did something for the characters that it was focusing on, which was Steph mainly, but also Tim, who at the end of the issue has given up the costume and the Drake outfit.
That's my biggest thing is, Bendis, what was your point?
Wait, Drake's gone already?
No, there wasn't a point. This was him quickly getting rid of it because he knew everyone hated it. I'm pretty sure that's what this is.
But that's what I mean. But in the logic of it is, okay, I get that you wanted him to be his own, which, again, that's a Dick Grayson thing. Like, Tim enjoys being Robin. Like, and I get it. You can't have. I'm not going to go there.
Well,
I've done this argument so many times.
Just a question. Do you think this is Bendis going, people didn't like this, or editorial going, change it back now?
No.
But how do you know it's like even the opposite? How do you know that it wasn't editorial that said, give him a different name and an outfit? Well, this is what he came up with.
Possible. Right, and that's my point. Was he like low key being like, I'm gonna make it so terrible that they're gonna beg to him to go back to Robin?
Even if he didn't have some sort of master plan like that, though, was he the whole time, ever since they introduced it, going, "Oh God, I hate this so much. I hope I can change it. I hope I can change it."
I don't know, but let's just take it for what it is. And it was just like it only impacted Young Justice because they've only ever. But like Drake was still such just a low key terrible name, and the costume was very uninspired. It was just like kind of been a slow point for me. Here, let's just take it for what it is. And then for him to go in the last page of this going, oh yeah, he's back to Robin now.
So he's just Robin, not Red Robin. Yeah. He's just the Robin again. Because obviously, as we were informed last week, Damian is no longer Robin.
Technically, yes, that's true. I like this issue though. I like the art as well. I thought it felt like it played to kind of Steph's classic art style a lot.
Yeah,
I thought.
Well, I like too that it balanced the Oeming versus the Godlewski with what they were doing. You know, it was Steph taking on Clue Master, henchmen and whatnot with Oeming.
Well, more specifically, it was assassins who had been hired by her father to take Steph out. So she calls Tim in. Tim's like, we should call in the team, and she's like, that's not my team. But he calls them anyway later on, so we get kind of like a roll call kind of thing eventually. But they get after her father, and you know, I think it's the Oeming art that I really like in this.
It's definitely more cartoony, but it fits because of the subject matter. They are taking out assassins. It fits
Steph. It fits Steph's outfit. It kind of feels not exactly, but it feels in line with like a 2000s comic, and I sort of thing I imagine. You know, a lot of
Bendis and
family
Oeming
members.
Doing 2000s comics. Who would have thought?
Yeah, but no, it matches a lot of what I think of a lot of the back character books from that time period. So, and even to the point where there's a great thing at the bottom of one of the pages where she's running along a rooftop, and some of the narration's in the rooftop itself, just it's all black, and she's like a silhouette, like jumping along the top. It feels almost like Sly Cooper-esque. For anyone who's played those games and knows what sort of like tone I'm talking about, that's what it kind of feels like with Spoiler jumping across the rooftops. Really fun stuff. So it's all about them getting up to the penthouse where where the Clue Master is and getting to him. Worth mentioning that Naomi is called as member of the Young Justice in this. She's not like a secondary member. She is one of the main team now, which is really cool. So we get a whole thing where they use a grapple on the motorbike to go up the side of the building. They get up to the top. There's a lot of fighting. Again, her kicking him square in the face and seeing like all the cheeks kind of scrunch up. Really fun art. Again, fun and cartoony. The teams show up. Are like, but you had this handled. This feels like it was a waste of our time. I got a mild kick out of Jenny getting annoyed because like, you're interrupting my podcast. It was her line. And I think it was funny because I was imagining it in her accent.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the cliffhanger at the end, as they're all sitting having lunch, Robin just happens to be back in it. Now, to be fair, it is sort of teased throughout the issue that Steph hates that costume and the name as well. And when the question at the end, like why why his costume's changed and he's got a different name, one of them mentions that it was Batman and Steph that made him change it. It feels a bit rushed.
Such a waste. Yeah.
Well, it's not so much that it's a waste, it's that we should never have done it in the first place.
Yeah. Still, I wish if I had one question for Bendis, it wouldn't be about Daredevil or X-Men or Avengers. It would be like, yo, what happened with Drake and why? You can tell me. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah. This has been one of the better issues because it was so focused. I mean, it helps that it was focused on a character that I really like, who's had very little page time in the last decade. But it was fun. It was pulpy. It did all these things. It didn't feel overburdened with dialogue like some of these issues. And I think part of it was that there was only two characters talking to each other for most of it, which helped, I think, a lot with that. There's a cliffhanger at the end where Cassie, who was notably absent before, kind of crash lands in front of them and says, Zeus has gone mad. So we're getting a Zeus story next issue with Cassie. Which is cool. Obviously we know the series is coming to an end, and I'm not that sad about it ending, really.
No. Because now these are starting to feel like one-shots that are character-specific, and
yeah, but the one-shots...
okay.
No, but they're better than what it was before. The arcs weren't that good.
That's what I mean. That said, the part of me that loves the grand scheme of things when it comes to Bendis, the whole idea of Gemworld introducing this crisis that was affecting them, and it just feels like it got away from that. Like we never, they defeated the Gemworld stuff, and then it's never been brought up again. So either he's laying out Easter eggs for people to find later to play with, or I don't know. It just felt a little bit bigger than what it ended up being.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of happy it didn't go back to it. I've kind of liked that Gemworld stuff a bit less and less the further we've gotten away from it.
I don't mind it.
I don't know. I mean, this issue is kind of the closest to what I wanted a Young Justice book to be. Obviously, you'd have more characters normally, but yeah. So it's a shame that maybe he's finally starting to stumble into what I want from a Young Justice book just as it's about to end. But sadly, it's going to be a run where it's going to be like, well, I mean, it sounded like a great idea on paper having Bendis doing Young Justice, but ultimately, it didn't last that long. The arcs weren't that great. It was just kind of okay for a lot of it, which is a shame. But yeah, this issue is solid though. If you have been reading it, I think this issue is one that works quite well. So, what are you giving it, Matt?
I mean, it was 7. It's good, but again, I'm just like, okay. It was a fun book.
Yeah, do you know what's so weird is I like this issue a fair bit more than I have a lot of the issues, but I'm still not tempted to actually rate it like super high. Like there's something kind of weird about it. It's almost as if because of what it's a part of now that it can't kind of outlive its shadow of just kind of the weight of what the series has been up until this point. So I'm also just going to give it like probably a 7.5.
And that checks out because you did like it more than I did. So
yeah. But it's still not like must-read material. That's kind of the sad part of it, which is kind of what you were hoping for when Bendis was taking on this book. But hey, I still read this issue in like the Last Legion of Superheroes though.
Yeah, that's good.
So that counts for something.
To be fair, you've only got like 3 more left to get through.
True, but I wasn't really thinking. I'll be honest though, I'd forgotten about that. I only remembered this was cancelled as I was talking about it here.
Oh, fair enough.
It was not really playing a factor in my decision making. So anyway, Hellblazer Rise and Fall issue 1, the final issue of the week, except Connor, which I assume did a Patreon book. He probably did Red Hood. That's what it was.
I did tell you yesterday I was going to do it. It's just to prove that you don't listen to me either.
I never claimed otherwise. Hellblazer, Rise and Fall, issue 1, Tom Taylor writing with Darick Robertson on the art. Black Label series. Is this a 3-issue book?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So it's a oversized 3-issue premium sort of format, all that stuff. Yeah, so this kind of starts off with the birth of John Constantine. It gives us a key event that happens when he was a young boy, and how one of his friends, kind of ended up dead. And then a police investigation with obviously some supernatural stuff going on in the present day. All set in Liverpool, and that's yeah. So I mean, you're the Constantine guy, Connor. So, what did you think of it first?
I thought it was all right. Actually, it's not amazing. It's very standard territory for a Constantine story. You know, oh, okay, there's something from John's past. You know, him being the guilty party, that he screwed up something in his past. You know, childhood friend. This is all tried and tested Constantine material, if I'm honest. And not that this is bad, but I don't think it's special either.
That's fair. I thought it was okay. It's one of these things. Obviously, Tom Taylor is like maybe my favorite working writer right now, and Constantine's a character that I've notoriously never really connected with or really been that into. And I think he's fine in DCeased. You know, being there as part of the overall roster's fine. But once you make the story about him, I kind of agree that even though I've not read a lot of Constantine, just from the small issues I've tried or just watching an episode of the TV show, even I felt like this was just kind of typical Constantine material, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect this won't convert anyone.
Yeah.
And the problem is the hardcore fans who have read everything will see the elements in this that frankly have been done better elsewhere. I mean, I'm not, not this exact story, but this is elements from this run or elements from that story and kind of mashed into one. And it's perfectly readable. It's pretty good.
And here's the thing. I ended up really enjoying Red Hood and Unkillables. I thought it was some of the best Jason Todd stuff I'd read. I actually enjoyed his character in that, which is saying something.
Yeah.
And I didn't dislike this necessarily. I thought the art, I like the overall aesthetic of the art. I do think a lot of the faces, Constantine pulls some faces at some points that I thought were kind of. Do you know what it made me think of?
This is Robertson in general, because obviously he's done a lot of works. I think one of his most notable works that he's done is he's the co-creator of The Boys.
Okay.
And it's his art, his faces in particular, that have always kept me away from reading that, because there's something about them that, I mean, they're not objectively bad. I just don't really like them. They're not that pleasing.
I like the inks and I like the colouring. So I think that's what I mean when I say I like the overall aesthetic of the art. Like I like how it feels.
It's kind of moody.
Yeah. But the faces I'm not super into. And I'm trying to find the example that really bothered me because it's quite late on, I think. But there's at one point he pulls a couple of faces and it made me think of like something you see like a Men in Black movie where the head's kind of like sort of shrunken and the face all feels like it's sort of getting sucked into the middle. Yeah, I don't know.
I know what you mean, and that's the thing. It's generally not bad. There's just the faces sometimes just look a bit off. There's something. I think it's mainly around the mouths that I have the problem with Robertson. And it was something I was very aware of when I picked up this book and saw who was on art. I went, oh, okay, that's probably going to hold this back for me. But it's not terrible. It doesn't ruin it. It just doesn't elevate.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, there's people being killed with angel wings. They're being like they're on spikes on top of buildings, but someone is like coming and stealing the wings, and they're not real wings either. They're wings that have been attached to the victims.
I like the idea that they're putting them on there and having them try to fly.
The wings are like sewn into the body. They're not just like stuck on or anything.
Oh, that's even worse.
It's kind of.
It's like a serial killer. Yeah, it's like serial killer stuff rather than like they're angels or something like that, or even just that they're props that they're being put on. Like
and one of the bodies that they find, the second one, is an ex-prime minister.
Yes, and there's also like that. So this kid that died in his youth. There's like a Constantine tried to like summon a demon to impress like his friends. The other friend is this woman who is now a police officer that he's kind of working with in the present day. and this kid died. The river or whatever.
Yeah, ironically, not because of anything Constantine actually did. His ritual didn't work. It was more just he dragged them out there in the middle of the night in this storm, and that happened to be when the river flooded, and and it had this tidal wave that swept them away, and that's what killed the kid. So he's guilty by having him out there in the night, in that place at that time, but not because of any direct action that he did with the magic side of things.
And this kid's kind of appearing kind of like not a ghost, but like a demonic version of himself, and he kills the police partner, the woman's police partner.
I thought it was really weird. The police partner, I think his name was Gary. Likeable enough character. They did reasonable job with just giving him enough. Right?
There was an intentional dialogue thing which I think was playing on a Harry Potter joke, where basically Constantine does something with magic, and Gary says, "How did he do that?" And the woman says, "He's a wizard, Gary." And when I read it out loud, I went, "Wait a minute, that's intentional." I said that like Hagrid.
Yeah.
He's a wizard, Gary.
And he's like magician, which just proves the point that it was there just for the reference.
Yeah.
Also, the thing he does with magic is he makes the pub they're in bring them three shots of Lagavulin on the house. I'm like, hey, if you're gonna get free whiskey, that's a good choice. So credit to you. But the thing I was gonna say about Gary is, like I said, likable enough because obviously the point he gets killed off, just enough to make you care that he feels like a reasonably formed character and not just he's the cop sidekick. But kind of weird how he dressed exactly the same as Constantine, like because we see him before we see adult Constantine, I believe, and he's wearing the red tie and the brown trench coat. I'm like, is he supposed to look exactly like him? Like, this is kind of weird.
Strange
choice.
It never occurred to me, to be honest, but
I think it's such a it's such an iconic look that Constantine has, given that it is regular clothes as opposed to a superhero outfit. It's the shirt, tie, and the coat.
Yeah.
I think putting someone else in his book in the exact same outfit really stood out to me. Kind of weird. I don't know if it was an intentional effort to make Constantine seem less unique, maybe just make him seem like a more normal by having other people look more like him, or if it was just something else entirely. I have no idea.
Yeah. We have a cliffhanger where the devil's eating his curry.
But yeah, that was another interesting. So he gets back to his apartment. All the the magical wards are all broken. He gets in there, and it's Lucifer, and they actively say they call him by the Lightbringer and the Morning Star. So they kind of make it clear that this is the title, but it's not the traditional DC Lucifer that I'm used to seeing. This is more classic Christian theology. Red skin, horns, devil.
I'll be honest, I don't know what DC's Lucifer normally looks like, so it never even occurred to me. I just took it as face value, what they were telling me.
I mean, what do you mean you don't know what Lucifer looks like? Jesus.
I don't remember. Like, what Lucifer in it?
I don't know. I just feel like he's a big enough character in DC's history that you'd have seen him around.
And what? Anything?
I know. I don't know specific things that you've read that he'd be in. I don't know. I mean, he just pops up here and there.
Maybe he's popped up in like group shots and stuff, and I've just never or don't remember him. But like, he's never featured prominently in a story that I've read.
Fair enough.
To be fair, it's that corner of DC is kind of the one that I don't really hang out in much.
No, it's true, but he has a very non-traditional Lucifer look, should we say? He looks, like a guy, a blonde guy. Not red-skinned, not horns, not devilish. So it's an interesting choice to me.
It's the Vindaloo. He's eating that out-of-date Vindaloo. I'm not supposed to doing it.
Yeah.
Making them all red. This is very readable. Obviously, Tom Taylor's a good writer, so everything flows really well. It's just the right amount of text. It makes you like the characters. The one who dies and even the friend. They feel very likable in their appearances. But it's not enough to really win me over as wanting to read more Constantine. So as shocking as this is to say, I don't think I want to read more. It wasn't a chore to read, but it was like a 50 odd page book. And if this comes out again in a week where there's a reasonable number of books, it's the easy one to cut. And it's also expensive. It's a $7 book, so or $8 book even. I don't know. I can't remember how much it was. I have a hard time remembering because of the UK prices are obviously
because of the
different.
conversion.
Yeah.
It makes it murkier. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like $6.50 I think on UK prices, but
Yeah. I think that's an $8. I don't know.
Anyway,
I kind of agree with everything you just said there, though. It's very much kind of baby's first Constantine book.
yeah. And there's not really anything that makes it Black Label all in the page format. Like, this could have easily just been a mini. And
I mean, in terms of if you count Black Label as the more adult line of things, then yeah, I think that I don't think that they're not censoring any swearing. If there was much, I don't think there was too much though.
And that's Constantine in a nutshell, though, right? Like, he's always Vertigo.
Yeah. Until the last decade or so, yeah.
Right. But that's what I'm saying up to that.
But I mean, there's some fun like violence parts. Like there's the first guy who's stabbed up as an angel he's on like a church spire, and like the wind things that they have on the top.
Mm-hmm.
He's stabbed through one of those.
Even
though it falls off and like his head splats on the floor and just explodes.
Yeah, the splat is kind of fun. It made me. It was even though it's not the exact thing that happens. It was making me think of the scene in Hot Fuzz.
Me too.
Just because of the church spire and the splat.
I think it's it is the church spire and the head splat, even though it's very different in terms of the context.
Yeah. I do love Hot Fuzz, so I mean I'm not going to be mad about thinking about Hot Fuzz. He's a slasher of prices. So, yeah. No, I mean it's all right, but I mean I don't really care about reading more of it, and that's saying something when it's a Tom Taylor book, and I don't think it's because he did a poor job. I think it's perfectly fine, but
I feel I made a good decision by choosing to watch Mark Stone highlights.
I don't know what that is, but no.
Did it have the one where he was stick on the floor to steal that one last night? Oh, that was so good.
Yes, it was there.
One of the best plays of the game, hands down.
Yep.
All right, well, hold on. Let's
goes the other way.
Let's rate this book before things go too off topic here. What are you rating it, Connor?
I'm gonna give it a 7. I think it's perfectly good. I don't think anyone would have made a bad choice in reading this. But I think there's probably other Hellblazer things you could read instead that would be better and, frankly, better value for your money in terms of the way they've been putting out those thick trades.
Yeah. I'm actually going to agree with the 7. I think it's perfectly fine. Like, I think it looks perfectly fine except for the faces, but there's a lot of other qualities there that are nice enough. It's well written enough. It's just nothing exciting or special, or makes me care about Constantine himself specifically. So I'm good.
I come in as someone who does care about Constantine and go, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's fine. It's more Constantine. I could read it.
It makes you want to, when it's done, get reading it as a collected. Because someone that's not that familiar with Constantine, sounds like it'd be my thing. But I'd rather just wait for it to be collected and buy it then. I
feel like by the end of this could be like the Constantine equivalent of Hush. For, what you do with for Batman fans. Like, here you go. Here's Hush. That'll give you a solid starting point. This could be that by the end.
Sure. All right. So apparently we have a Patreon book every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Some of our patrons at one of the higher tiers can make me or Connor read a book.
I just love your guys' way of communicating where Connor don't listen to you and you don't listen to Connor, so now we do a Patreon book.
So, Connor, I assume it's doing a Red Tooth Outlaw issue, but
it is because we actually had a couple of busy weeks last month because of all the crazy news and stuff. I actually owed an extra issue.
So this is last month's Red Tooth.
This is last month's one.
Okay.
So this is issue 47. It's still Lobdell writing for a few more issues, and Pantalena on art still, who is I've been describing as the knockoff Rocafort, and I think this is his weakest issue yet. Honestly, it's not too hot in terms of the art on that things. The writing I think was worse last issue. Not that this is good, but it doesn't have that stupid joke about the shoe that I still don't understand. So, it's a step up. But I hated this issue from the first page because I open it up, first page, and it's the new 52 Outlaws team. And it's, Starfire in that atrocious new 52 outfit that Outlaws had her in.
Which one? The space one?
Yeah, the space bikini.
Okay. Not when she assumed the captainhood of her ship. That suit was cool.
No, just the one where it comes up over the sides of her boobs and there's nothing else there.
Yeah, the one is like, hey, look at Corey, isn't she hot? And it's like, there's more to this character than this.
Yeah.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah, it's that. So it starts. It is obviously a flashback. We have a couple of pages of them walking through this Chamber of All, I think it was called. I'm forgetting all the technobabble, if I'm being honest with you. But it's again this place that it's like a mythical maze that will take you anywhere or anywhen. And they're wandering through it in the past, and Roy opens up a door, and there's some like demons behind it. It's like, nope, not that door. But that's all we get of that flashback right then. It's kind of irrelevant other than to set up that they were in here at one point, and that's it. But then we have the present day. The one good thing I will genuinely give this comic, which I think I've said before, is we start with a full page spread of full page of the lineup of all the characters in there. We got Jason, not Bizarro, but he's somewhere else. But we got Jason, Artemis, Essence, and then we got Saru and General Glory. And I appreciate that the one thing that I do appreciate in this book that I wish more books did is this is the first issue, first appearance in this issue. Even though we've had most of these characters for multiple issues, obviously some of them the entire run, it still gives us, okay, here's a box with this is their name, quick, one sentence intro of who they are for right now.
Mm.
Yeah, again, just in case, I don't know who's jumping in at issue 47, but I appreciate it anyway because I don't remember half their names. I wouldn't have remembered Essence or General Glory, so there is that. But then you
I don't know who starts at 47, but you're bold.
Yeah.
Dear.
Yeah, you've just got them doing some fighting and stuff and trying to do whatever they're doing. They've got the obelisks that they're opening a portal to hell. And speaking of hell, that's where Bizarro is fighting Trigon, which is how we ended the last issue. Do not like how Trigon is treated in this issue, like an absolute chump. And it's basically, he's got Bizarro pinned. Bizarro uses his freeze vision, because obviously he's reverse powers for anyone who's forgotten. He uses freeze vision on Trigon's hand and then just punches it and smashes his hand. It's like, see, this is easy. And all of Trigon's demon supporters are like literal dialogue from the demons, I want to point out. Whoa. Whoop, whoop. Is this the end of Trigon? Let us pray. That is actual dialogue from 4 demons.
Well, luckily, Tom Taylor's getting his Trigon right now, so you don't have to be concerned with the Red Hood version of things.
That was so bad.
That was terrible.
I was sitting thinking about that for a good 30 seconds there. I was trying to...
Still better than that shoe thing, though.
I mean...
What shoe thing?
It's the shoe thing from last issue about the spelling and the pronunciation.
Oh, okay, yes, I remember now.
Yeah. Terrible. But yeah, so they're having a bit of a fight. Jason, Artemis, and that they're all trying to stop the obelisks and whatnot, and then they close the portal to hell, and they're like, okay, sorted. We close off this entrance to the Chamber of All maze. But as they're closing it off, they're like, but Bizarro's still in there, and he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, he's making a good sacrifice here. But as they're trying to close it, Jason's like, they're getting overrun, so he pulls out his magic sword and starts trying to fight some demons. And who should show up to provide a hand with but some arrows through the backs of these demons that Jason's about to fight?
Starfire.
Because Starfire is there, yes. I almost feel like Pete didn't listen to the start of this review.
No, I didn't.
Because he got confused because he didn't recognize that name.
Yeah, it just blanked. Like,
I was just trying to think of someone who wasn't an archer because I thought it'd be funny, but go on.
Yeah, the problem is
Zombie Roy because he's the only person. Sorry.
Yeah, the problem is because Starfire is there because it's the new 52 team again from the start of this issue because it did set up they can be anywhere or anywhen, so some time travel shenanigans, I guess. And anyway, the final couple of pages of the issue is back into hell. Bizarro fighting Trigon, He does this thing where he jumps through Trigon's chest and seemingly takes out his heart. Assuming Trigon has a heart, I don't really know. I mean, it looks like a heart. I do have a problem with the art. There's this thing where you see it a lot with acrobatic characters. Dick Grayson does it a lot, where they want to show the traversal, the movement. So they'll do like the transparent, panels of the sequencing, to show the flip, for example. They'll do like 3 or 4 panels, 3 or 4, not even panels, just 3 or 4 instances of Dick Grayson kind of moving through the motion. They kind of do that with Bizarro here, but they just do one at the start and then one at the end. And I don't know if it's supposed to be like a super speed thing, and there's like an after image, but it's a weird effect and it doesn't look that great because of the. And this is partially a weird coloring thing because, obviously they make it like transparent, so it's see through, but they make it more transparent than they usually do when they do this, because usually it's kind of just grayed out. You can see through it, but you can still make out the colors. Like on Dick Grayson, you still see the blue or the red, whatever, whenever it was. Whereas this here, it's just like an outline. And then when you see through it, you've got Trigon, who's red, and the Flames of Hell, which are red. So it kind of just has a weird effect that it's very very murky. Not a fan of it. And then it's the very final panel is Bizarro in front of a fallen Trigon holding his heart, saying, "Whoops, that escalated quickly."
Trigon, more like Trigoff.
That was somehow worse.
That moment was my greatest accomplishment ever.
Trigoff. Trigon.
It says next time, we can't imagine, but it rhymes with smoker door, and I couldn't think of who that was. I had a bit of a blank. So
Rhymes with what?
Smoker door.
I just hope there's no hard feelings and that Trigons can be Trigons.
But it's a 2.5. We can wrap this up and end the terrible.
I am glad this is almost over so we can be Trigon in 60 seconds.
Whoa, see, masking it on it. I loves it.
You know what they could call the Raven story? Trigon Girl.
I would just like to say, all of Matt's been better than all of Pete's.
I don't mind. If you think being good is the objective here, making you wince in pain at how bad they are is part of the fun.
That's also how the writer of that book feels. So,
I am at a point where I do feel like this is being written just to spite me.
Because it probably is.
Yeah.
Cheers. Okay. All right. This is the part of the show where we pick our favorites of the week, favorite panel / moment,
Oh, shoot.
favorite
Supposed to look for a moment.
cover, favorite, the top 5, all that stuff. All right. So, best panel / moment of the week. Matt, what is your pick?
So I try to pick other things, but I can't help it. It's gonna come from Strange Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that image of Alana on the balcony that it opens up, and Washington's before her. It's a really good. Gerads is really good.
Oh yeah.
But it could have been anything from here too, because Shaner's really good too.
He is, isn't he?
But it could have been also from Jimenez in Batman. I think the Harley and Punchline fight is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked a lot of the stuff with Bruce and Alfred. So, but it was going to be from Strange Adventures.
All right, Connor.
Mine is from DCeased, and I can describe the panel in one word: pop.
I knew you'd say that.
I mean, it's from me.
Just try going harder, okay?
I feel bad for anyone who skipped over that part.
I know, I don't get why I'm making bad Trigon puns. Just try Trigon again, okay?
You're reaching now.
I know.
Really reaching.
Mine's, I have to go with the Batman. The build up to that moment, the emotional weight of him saying he's the whole family and taking back who he is, and then just the way the art builds up to it. It's basically perfect. So yeah, Batman gets the pick for me. Look at that, we had moments from 3 different books there. Good
That's
stuff.
good.
Best cover of the week. I'll jump in here first. I will say that There's two Matina covers this week. There's a Matina Batman cover and a Matina DCeased cover. Both are very good. But I'm actually going to go with the Gerads cover for Strange Adventures. I think I have to go with that. So that's my pick.
What's the Matina DCeased cover? Where's that?
It's really cool.
It's Cassie. It's got the white and the red behind her.
Oh, that is nice.
With zombie Wonder Woman in the corner.
Yeah.
That is very nice.
Cara, you're up.
I hadn't noticed that one, so I'm just looking. I've got three that I like, and I think I know which one I'm gonna go with. So the other ones that I do like, I'll just mention the Justice League variant, the Darrington one.
Mm-hmm.
Always good. Out of Strange Adventures, I actually prefer the Shayna cover this time. I really like that. But what I am going to go with is the Hellblazer variant. The Bermejo image is just gorgeous.
Okay.
I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt.
Yeah. It's gonna be the Gerads Strange Adventures. It's I already talked out. It looks like an old detective novel.
Sure.
You just put a couple different things there, and yeah, it's really good.
Oh. All right. Best art of the week then, as if it could be anything but one book. But Cara.
Yeah, it's Strange Adventures. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jimenez does a good job in Batman. A very good job. I think that undersold him a little bit. But the Gerads and Shayna combo have just been knocking out of the park every single issue.
Yeah, it's the 1-2 punch. It's Trigon with the wind, as they say. As I say.
They do not say that.
They would if they had half a brain in their heads, the fools. Matt, why are you picking Strange Adventures?
Yeah, I want to give it to Jimenez, but Connor stole all my points. I really like Jimenez, but you can't beat the 1-2 punch of Shayna and Gerads, especially on this one. So yeah.
Yeah, no, Strange Adventures. It's phenomenal, both sides of it. The fact that we sat and analysed the art in that to an extreme degree every issue is because the art's just in that level, both in storytelling and in quality of the images. So there you go. So then we have top 5 books of the week. Matt, you will kick us off.
Yeah, so number 1's going to be Strange Adventures. Number 2 is going to be Batman. Number 3 is Dead Planet. 4, Shazam. 5 is Young Justice.
Cool, Connor?
Dead Planet. No, Strange Adventures, then Dead Planet. They're pretty close, admittedly. Then Batman, then Hellblazer.
Cool. It was actually quite close for my number 1, to be honest, between Strange Adventures and Batman. I'm still going to eke out to Strange Adventures, but Batman kind of came close for me this week. It was making me feel some really type superhero feelings, but Strange Adventures, has the depth and whatnot. So number 1 is Strange Adventures, number 2 is Batman, number 3 is DCeased Dead Planet. Number 4 is Justice League, and number 5 is probably Shazam. This is kind of a toss-up though with Shazam and Young Justice there at the 5th place.
Oh man, for the first time, I didn't read the most books.
It's not the first time. There's been 217 episodes now, Matt. I'm pretty sure at some point.
For the first time in a while.
Yeah. Someone's going to go back and do the detective work. Do the detective work.
Do it.
Yeah. All right. So that is our picks for the week. So some good stuff there, and I think it was. I think those top 3 books that we all read were all pretty great and had some good discussion.
Yeah. I mean, even my 4th book was Hellblazer, which was the lowest of my 4. Easily the lowest of my 4, but it was still perfectly good enough read.
So yeah, what's coming next week then? We have The Flash 761, Wonder Woman 762, Nightwing 763. No, I'm joking, just because it was going up one by one. Nightwing 74, Superman 25, Justice League Odyssey 24, Joker Harley Criminal Sanity number 5. I'm actually looking forward to that coming back. I enjoyed that book.
That's interesting. Yeah. I just saw that and went, oh, I forgot about that. Kind of.
Yeah, no. I read that case book thing, which was a waste of time. So
because it's been 4 or 5 months, I just saw this one. Oh yeah. That.
Yeah.
Are you both down in this? You both don't want to read this?
No. I'm still gonna read this. That casebook thing they put together to hold, over. It was just kind of like a DVD extra.
I mean, I saw what it was and just skipped it. Yeah.
I didn't. I need to be more judicious on what I pick up.
Anyway, back to the list here. Green Lantern season 2 issue 7. Dark Knight's Death Metal, Trinity Crisis issue 1, so we got our next one-shot tie-in. And those have been actually surprisingly solid so far.
This is one of the ones that's more important than the others, because this was, the last issue of Metal directly set up this, this plot thread.
Yeah, we got
Snyder. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
Hogman 27, Batman the Outsider 16, and that wraps up. So that's the list that books is coming next week.
So Snyder said on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, that this Trinity Crisis, while you don't have to read it, you can pick up the next issue of Death Metal, and they'll touch on it. It is better, and he's like, I'm not just trying to sell books. It is going to be better because of the stories they put time into and the creative teams and whatnot.
Well, I believe this is one of the books that are tackling them actually doing the plan, which to set up last issue. Yeah. So they feel a bit more necessary than otherwise would.
This one that's doing the plan, and then you've got the Flash book, which seems like it follows up on the Flash stuff that we had in the last issue of Metal.
All the one-shots this month do feel kind of, maybe not essential, but relatively important if you care about
it. Yeah. Hey, Pete, are you jumping down on Hawkman issue 27 for some JSA action?
No, probably not. No.
Oh man, I'm so stupidly excited.
It's easily the book I'm most excited for next week. Like, it's not even close.
No.
I mean, I wish I was like into it. I wish I cared, but I just wasn't into the start of the book, and I dropped it.
Oh, it's been so freaking good.
And now it's almost ending, and it's 27 issues in.
You could have 3 issues of JSA stuff. Here's a little JSA mini featuring Hawkman.
Yeah, but it's going to be capping off his run so far, so there's going to be things that don't mean anything to me. And...
To be fair, I think most of the stuff in his run was capped off in the last issue, which did close off like everything that the first issue had been building.
Sent him to their favorite life, basically. And it's the JSA, and that is so stupidly exciting for me, especially because I wouldn't say love. I really enjoyed his Freedom Fighters. And so there's this pulp aspect that I know Venditti really likes. And now he gets to do that with flipping original Sandman. Come on. Good. Yeah.
Well, that's what's coming next week. Hopefully along with fandom news and solicits for whatchamacallit.
We should have solicits, barring them holding them till after fandom.
They might hold them. Again, I said this last time, but unless all the announcements are more pertaining to January and the start of the year, and the solicits are just going to be kind of normal, then we'll have solicits as the normal thing.
At the very least, in the solicits, where you're expecting the Endless Winter, because we know that's December. They've been teasing that.
That's true. Which it makes sense that they're going to talk about that at fandom, so they might hold the solicits for a week just so they can reveal stuff.
Yeah.
But we should actually get that news on the show. If it's not there early on the show, we'll have a news segment at the end about all the stuff that's dropped during the recording of the news.
Just before we finish, Comixology and Marvel have a thing right now where every single Black Panther issue ever is free. I have no idea how long for. They haven't really said. It's not in a sales section. Just search for Black Panther.
Led to me discovering that there is a 150 item limit in the cart on Comixology.
But it's like, hundreds of dollars worth of content that there is no reason for you not to go and get, as long as that sale is still running when you listen to this.
Yeah, I have no idea when I'm ever going to get around to reading any of it, but I have now hundreds of issues of Black Panther on my account.
The coats, Black Panther stuff, top quality stuff. Especially if you've been enjoying his Captain America work recently, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, which I have.
Look at that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all free. Not trades though, it's just a single issue, so you do have to. I mean, luckily there's an add all to cart button which you can make yourself, but it is a single issue, it's not the trades, but still, it's everything. So go and claim it.
That reminds me, Connor, I need to get caught up on Captain America.
I think I'm maybe 1 issue behind if one came out in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm 1 or 2 behind, so I was really enjoying that. Same with Immortal Hulk. I gotta get reading that. I've been bad.
And I've been watching hours and hours of hockey every week.
Yeah, I know. I can't help it.
Anyway, so let's wrap this up so I can go get some food. So that has been episode 217 of Comics from the Multiverse. You can let us know what you thought of all the books in the comments. Please do hit like on the YouTubes. The like button's super important. It helps us find new people, as does rating the podcast and leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month of September. So thank you to... that's peering a little bit on Matt's face there. My little list. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, and Brett Williams, to all those guys and gals. They are our Patreon producers. That means they're $20 or more on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, but you can support us over there financially for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses. At the $5 tier, you get early access to the show by a day. Same with previously when we got a new episode of that out, which is kind of hit and miss as to when it actually comes out, but it does come out. We had one just this past week, so you hopefully enjoyed that. That's me and Connor talking about old DC comic runs and working our way through some stuff. So go and have a look at all that. And also look at the YouTube page, MailFuzz TV, just for other content that we have. And a lot of that is available via podcast, audio podcast as well. But you'll find the horror movie podcast, Screams After Midnight, the sci-fi movie podcast, the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Perhaps most relevant is me and Connor reviewing the episodes of The Boys, or more recently, we wrapped up the Umbrella Academy Season 2. We did Season 1 of Stargirl, of course, all 13 episodes of that reviewed one by one as it was coming out. So maybe you're interested in some of that content. So go and have a look. But otherwise, that is us. So get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast for updates and shenanigans. You can send emails to mftvquestions@gmail.com, which sometimes you'll use if there's a week where we want questions. That won't be this week because we're expected to have some news next week, obviously. But yeah, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, guys. And remember to never get lost. And if you Trigon really hard, you won't. In the Speed Force.
You ruined my Trigon. I'll let Trigons be Trigons.
I used that one earlier.